Verse 3. Now I want you to realize that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is man, and the head of Christ is God. Every man who prays or prophesies with his head covered dishonors his head. And every woman who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head. It is just as though her head were shaved. If a woman does not cover her head, she should have her hair cut off. And if it is disgraceful for a woman to have her hair cut off or shaved off, she should cover her head. A man ought not to cover his head, since he is the image and glory of God, but the woman is the glory of man. For man did not come from woman, but woman from man. Neither was a man created for woman, but woman for man. For this reason, and because of the angels, the woman ought to have a sign of authority on her head. In the Lord, however, woman is not independent of man, nor is man independent of woman. For as woman came from man, so also man is born of woman. But everything comes from God. See, a woman needs love. Yes, does she need some respect? Absolutely. But her heart cries out for love just as much as her heart cries out for love. A man's heart cries out for respect. And I don't think our dear sisters understand how important respect is to her husband. Suppose, this happens many times in a counseling session. You get a husband and wife sitting there on the couch. The man obviously doesn't want to be there. The woman's there, dragging him there. And they're talking to the counselor. And how many times do we have a woman will say something like this to the counselor? Now, I love my husband. I just don't respect him. Right? How many of y'all think that's a harmless statement? So what? At least she loves him. And you women, from your perspective, at least I love him. I just don't respect him. But I don't think you realize what you're saying by that. Because let's reverse it for a moment. You two are in the same counseling, and your husband says to the counselor, now I just want you to know, I respect my wife. I just don't love her. Oh, now we get the women like, what's that? What do you mean? Shut your mouth up. What do you mean you don't? Because in your mind, that's it. I mean, if he doesn't love you, what's the point, right? It's over with. How long will it get over that statement? No, forever. How can he say that? See, do you see how harsh that sounds to your ears? But yet, you'll say, I love my husband, I just don't respect him, and you don't realize how hard that is to his ears. Because you stripped him from the very thing that causes him to be happy in his marriage. Because he is wanting respect. And that's what this passage is basically saying. We'll get into it in a moment. But basically, Paul is saying that man's the head. And as he's the head of this home and of the wife, as a head by nature, emotional, there's an emotional craving he has because God made him the head. He can't help it. Since God made him the head, there's an emotional craving to have respect as the leader. It's part of his being, just like it's a woman's being to want to have a child and to nurture. Why? It's in her nature to want to have a child because she has the womb, and that womb naturally is crying out, I want a baby to fill it. It's in her. And just like it's in her to have a baby and to nurture that child, it's in a man to be that leader and to have that respect from his woman. And when he doesn't have it, it feels to him like what a woman would feel like if she's not loved by her husband. He's just looking for a little R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Looking for a little respect. But when a wife flatly says to her husband, you will have to earn respect before I give you any. What would you think if the man says, you're going to have to earn my love before I give you any? And if you start to change in a way I don't like, then I'm not going to love you anymore. What would you do? No, love is unconditional. So even if I, your wife, get old, which I am, and I'm not going to look as pretty as I was when we got married. I am going to age and get some wrinkles and get some gray. And I'm not going to have the hourglass figure that and some didn't have that to begin with, but you get the point. But the point is, I'm going to change. And you know what? You would never think it would be right for a husband to say, well, I'm divorcing because you got old. Hello, mister, you got old too. And you don't have any hourglass figure either. You don't even have the same hair you used to have. She just grayed. You lost it. At least she can color it. What are you going to do? Plant it. But you would never think it would be right for a man to say, you changed, and I loved you because you were this beautiful thing with an hourglass figure, and you were so sexy looking, but you're not that anymore, so I don't love you anymore. You would think, how? No, because we love, cherish, and honor. Notice, love, cherish, and honor. Honor is a form of respect. Through sickness and in health. Through poverty and in wealth. In other words, when things change for the good and when they change for the bad, we still love unconditionally, but we still honor, respect unconditionally too. And yet, a woman would fully expect her husband to still love her no matter what changes. So why does a woman think, I don't like the changes that it's in your life, therefore I'm not going to respect you until you make the changes I like? Do you see the problem? So what I've been preaching is unconditional love and unconditional respect. We need them both in our lives. But now, for the men need that respect. A group called Decision Analysis Incorporated did a national survey, and the author of the book, Love and Respect, and I'm getting a lot of his material in this sermon from this author who used to be a Christian pastor, but he resigned from being a pastor and does full-time teaching on love and respect. Anyway, he asked Decision Analysts, would it be possible if he can have a question in their survey for his own research? And they granted it to him. And he asked two questions, and he asked men this question, A or B is the answer for you. And that's the question, that my wife's significant other doesn't respect me, A, or B, that my wife's significant other doesn't love me. The men fill out the survey. Are you ready? 81.5% of the men said, my wife doesn't respect me. That's what was on their heart. It wasn't about love. It was about respect. That's what they felt was lacking with the relationship with their wife.